Alrighty, so I've been told, I don't know about you guys, but at least for me, I've been told that between the ages of 18 to 25, the thing that you should make your number one priority is something like your education, your career skills, your career goals, or even something like networking, right? But I simply disagree with that notion. I don't agree that those should be your number one priority if you're like a young adult between ages of 18 to 25, or at least around that age. I believe that the number one goal you should be aspiring to achieve is when you're like, oh man, I'm truly independent. I believe that independency is the most important goal you should achieve in your young adulthood. Now, this shouldn't be your only goal, right? And when I say independence, I don't mean that you should build your own house. You should grow your own crops and feed your own self. You should create your own phone. You should, do everything by yourself. We humans are very social. We're very social creatures. So, of course, me trying to tell you, hey, um, I'm saying do everything by yourself, that's unrealistic and that's not a good advice. And if anybody gives you this advice, tell them that they're goddamn lunatics. This is not the Middle Ages. This is not even the Stone Ages. Okay? We're very social. You want to obviously care about your education. You want to care about your careers. You want to care about your network. But in my opinion, if you're doing all of those things and you're not independent, then I truly think they don't really matter much. How come? Okay, so let's say, for example, you go to school, you go to good school, you go and develop really good career skills, and you network and you make good friends, yada yada yada. And you don't try to have this form of independence. The first thing that you're going to learn when you try to be independent is your identity, who you are, right? What do you stand for? What are your habits? What are your beliefs? What is the lifestyle of Omario Toa, right? I wouldn't know that if I'm not chasing independence, right? Independence, as you're trying to be independent, less depending on, say, living with your parents, living with your, living on a particular job and being open to do any kind of other jobs. All of these stuff, you realize, like, okay, okay, I'm alone. I get my own house. Like, how am I going to do that? You know, what is the dream that I'm going to chase? And my parents tell me, no, you gotta be an engineer, you gotta be a doctor, you gotta be a lawyer. But I'm like, no, I want to be a musician. That speaks to your character. Be a be a basketball player. No, I want to be a doctor. That speaks to your character. You're having this independent individuality that is very important. And a lot of people these days, they're NPCs. They're betas. They have no personality. They have no goal, they have no aspiration. There is nothing to them that screams, oh, that is him. They don't have that. That's what happens when you don't cut in your videos. But independence, when you try to do things yourself, when you try to be like, okay, I'm going to deal with these things by myself, I'm going to figure them out by myself, you start to be like, okay, like, this is who I really am. I'm a very lazy person. I'm a very hardworking person. I'm a very picky person. You say, okay, I go into this independent journey of mine, right? Is that all I'm gonna get from identity, knowing who I am inside as a person? No, you grow. Okay, it's like, okay, if you right now are relying, say, on food stamps, and currently in the U.S. they cut off food stamps. Now you can't go and eat food stamps. Guess what? You're gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle to put food on the table. If you're already struggling with food stamps, imagine what's gonna happen with that. So then it forces you to grow as a person. It forces you to go out there, right? And be like, okay, I think I might need a second job, a third job. It might go and force you to be more of a political person. It might be like, okay, next time I'm not gonna vote for who I think is the most charismatic. I'm gonna vote for someone who's actually going to do good for me and for the citizens of said country. I'm not gonna vote for some orange sack billionaire who only cares about him and the 1%, him and his billionaire buddies. I'm not gonna do that. It forces you to be like, okay, now you're gonna have to be hunting for places that might help you. Again, independence doesn't mean you deny help, right? You are a fool if someone is giving you a layup, a free hand, right? Of course, that is a free hand is not like something that comes with a catch. I'm just saying, so like, if you go to a ministry bank, if you go to somewhere and they just give you food for the sake of giving you food, there's no catch. At least I think there is no catch. But you're gonna own me. So you grow as a person, you build an identity, you build a character. It also gives you one of the most important, how do I say this? One of the most important characteristics someone can have: confidence. Someone who relies on someone to pay their bills, do you think they're going to be confident when the bill is going to be forced on them? Do you think if someone doesn't know how to make money and they're forced to pay certain debts, do you think they're confident in paying it? You think if they have to do a test but they don't study it because it's not COVID anymore and you can't send it to some Russian guy to do all of these goddamn quizzes and tests for you, you gotta go and do it, but they don't study, do you think they're confident? No. So when you're independent and we're like, no, I'm not going to let someone study for me, I'm going to study for myself. I'm not going to necessarily rely on set entity to put food on the table. Basically, I'm going to make sure that I'm capable of doing that. You know, I don't need horrible, abusive, narcissistic parents to put a roof on top of me. I'm going to find a way to put a roof on top of me, right? And yeah, like it, when you build this confidence, because you've learned how to be independent, you've learned how to do things yourself, important things yourself. Like, yeah, like everybody who's like at least age 5 to like whatever is confident going to the bathroom. They can do their own number one and number two. Why? Because they've learned it, right? And they've learned it, and now they don't need mommy and daddy to pick them up and to just put them in the toilet and tell them, hey, do number one if you need to, put number two if you need to. No, you're a grown ass boy, grown ass girl. You're gonna do your own poo poo and caca, okay? But the most important thing is that when you achieve independence, you are not gonna get controlled anymore. Or at least not controlled so much. Right? So, I've said this many times before. So many of us are forced to live lives we don't really want to because there's someone or something that is low key controlling us. You know, if you don't like how the rules in your parents' house are, but you can't move, and you're like, nah, I don't. They're willing to let me stay, but every time I stay, they're like, hey, no dating, or hey, no, no tacos and burritos. Hey, no friends over. But you want friends over. You want to play video games. You want tacos and burritos, but you can't. You're low-key being controlled. If a certain job has a certain contract, think like if you're a UFC fighter. If you're a UFC fighter and you don't complete all of the fights, they basically control you. Even if you retire, you can't fight in another province if you want. whether you're retired or unretired. Um, you can't do certain sponsorships. You're being controlled. And if you only were very educated, if you only position yourself in a better place, you won't have to be feeling like you're controlled. And then be like, hey, this is modern day slavery. Because sometimes that's how modern slavery is. Contracts. You willingly saying that you're a slave a lot of times. And that's very unfortunate. So yeah, that's all I had to say. Hope that sparks a conversation in the comment section down below. I really would love to have a conversation with you guys. And yeah, see y'all.